Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils' four-game winning streak comes to an end as they dropped Game 1 against the Los Angeles Angels. And honestly, we got to talk about the pitching staff in this one. Christopher Sanchez not great. Seranthony Dominguez not great. The Phils' bats seem to hit relatively enough, so we'll break all that down. Plus, we're going to preview Game 2 of the series. How do the Phillies bounce back in what could be Spencer Turnbull's last start for a while? And also, speaking of Seranthony Dominguez, we got to figure this out because, my goodness, he was bad again last night. All of that on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. I really appreciate it. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube. Subscribing to the YouTube is the number one most important thing you could do. It really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. If you enjoy the content, that's the number one way to help us out. So if you haven't done that yet, I really appreciate it if you would do that. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I've told you about Monopoly Go. They're awesome, right? If you have a competitive side like me and you're a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on Classic Monopoly is the best for you. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. So go ahead and check that out. Let's get into last night's game. It was not the best one. The Phils drop it 6-5 to the Los Angeles Angels. Hitting-wise, the Phillies, they had 5 runs on 6 hits. So, right, did the offense get the job done? It's hard to say. They had a lot of walks in the game. They walked 9 times, and a lot of that was because when you look at the start that Griffin Canning had, he walked 5 in 5 innings of work. So when you get that, that shows you the Phillies didn't have a bad approach at the plate. They just weren't hitting in big enough spots at points. They did have a lot of opportunities that they didn't cash in on. But I don't know. You score 5 against the Angels. That should be enough considering their lineup isn't incredibly talented. Mike Trout's Mike Trout. He's always going to be nasty. And Joe Adell is a darn good baseball player. If you don't know enough about Joe Adell, that guy's a player. That guy's a solution in Los Angeles. But the rest of this lineup, Ward, Drury, Rengifo, Ohapi, Logan Ohapi having a good year, but you don't have all-stars up and down the lineup like the Phillies have. So I would expect a better pitching performance than allowing 6 runs to the Los Angeles Angels. It's going to happen. Guys are going to have off days. I brought it up recently, I believe 2 episodes ago, if you want to go back and check it out. But I was like, the pitching staff has been insane. It's not going to happen forever. They're going to have stretches where they're not as good. Ultimately, what matters is the ceiling of this team, and the ceiling of this team is very high. But yesterday, you saw, I think the big story is a rough start from Christopher Sanchez. He ended up going 5 innings. He allowed 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, only 1 strikeout in that 5 innings of work. A home run allowed to Joe Adell early in that one. I look at Christopher Sanchez, right? And I got kind of a little bit of blowback from this when I said it. Not last start, maybe 2 starts ago. I said it earlier in the year when we started hearing about Taijuan Walker potentially coming back. I was like, well, Christopher Sanchez to me is the guy that seems to make the most sense in the bullpen. He's been there before for the Phillies. I'm messing up my hair if you're watching on YouTube. He's been there before for the Phillies, and Taijuan Walker's not going to throw out of the pen. Spencer Turnbull is probably the guy they're going to pick to go to the pen, but I think he's been better than Christopher Sanchez this year. Turnbull has looked really, really good. There hasn't really been a point watching Spencer Turnbull where I thought, he looks shaky today. He looks rough today. I'm kind of worried about him today. Sanchez, even in some of the games that he had good results in, there are points early in games where he just doesn't feel as comfortable on the mound. If you had to ask me, who I would pitch I did this yesterday, do or die game, Ranger Suarez or Zach Wheeler. Yesterday I said Ranger Suarez, I would probably give the ball right now. But if I had to pick between Spencer Turnbull and Christopher Sanchez, who's going on the mound for a do-or-die game, it's not an ideal situation, but I would probably give the ball to Spencer Turnbull right now, which with a rotation that you want to keep to 5 guys and 6 men kind of currently throwing in it, and with Walker's return on Sunday, Turnbull's going to throw today in what could be his final start. They don't want to do the 6-man rotation. I don't know, man. Like, if I was in charge of the Phillies, Christopher Sanchez would be in the pen ahead of his next start. But with the Phillies the way they are and the trust in the rotation they had last year and remembering what they did this offseason, right? This is key. You got to remember what happened this offseason for the Philadelphia Phillies. They stood pat. They hung with the guys that they trusted. They didn't bring in a lot of new pieces. I know Spencer Turnbull was an offseason addition, but he was only on this roster to start the year because Walker was hurt. He's been great. He's earned a reason to stay. Like, he's earned his way onto the major league roster in some capacity. We'll see what that ends up being for the Phillies. That's someone else's decision besides mine. Believe it or not, the Locked On Phillies podcast, is awesome of a podcast as it is, we don't have control over roster decisions. So it is what it is. But my point is, in the offseason, the Phillies told you they're sticking with their guys. They trust the guys they had last year. They're going to make a few small tweaks, and that's it. That would seem to lend to the idea that they're going to stick with the guys in the rotation from last year, and they could have the same exact rotation as last year with Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Walker, and then Christopher Sanchez. That could be it. That could be their five. Turnbull wasn't here, and is that fair? I don't know. I don't think so. But that's a question as we get into the back end of the rotation next time around. You still got a couple games before that. You got Turnbull, and then you get back to the top with Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, as you round out the month of April and head into what's the next month? May? Yeah. Jesus, Connor, figure it out. April 30th today. So final episode of the month of April, final game of the month of April for the Phillies as they're 19-11. And they've got a chance, if they get 20 wins, to set even further the franchise record for wins in the month of April. 19 is already a franchise record. They can break their own if they win tonight. So the team's not in a bad spot. It was just one of those games where, I don't know, it wasn't their night. And on the mound, you had a couple of rough outings. Seranthony Dominguez out of the pen allowed 2 runs, which is not ideal at all. He was the only bullpen arm that allowed runs. Now, Ryan Kirkering allowed a run, but it was charged to Christopher Sanchez, who came in relief. I thought Kirkering looked all right. He was in one of the higher leverage spots he's been in, or the highest leverage spot, I would say, he's been in this year. And he got out of it without too much trouble. So that's fine. Only threw 9 pitches. I got no issue with that. The Seranthony Dominguez thing we'll talk about a little bit later. But also, I want to continue to talk about the offense. Trey Turner, 2 for 4. He's batting .344 now. Alec Boehm, 1 for 3 with 3 RBIs. He had a 2 RBI single in the first. He had a sacrifice fly RBI later on in the game. Like, those guys are unbelievable. And I would keep Boehm in the cleanup spot, and I would obviously not move Turner out of the 2-hole. Bryce Harper, 1 for 3. A couple of walks. They worked around him a couple of times. I mean, yeah, the guys that let you down offensively were the bottom of the order. Marsh 0 for 3. Castellanos 0 for 4. Stott 0 for 2. Rojas 0 for 3. Stubbs 1 for 3. But that was also, I don't know. It's a rare game. Normally, you're going to get better out of some of those guys, and I'm not concerned about it. You're not going to win every game. You just swept. You still have a chance to win 2 or 3 in this series, but now it becomes paramount, because if you lose a series to the Angels, that's going to be the first result in a while, like nearly over half a month, where I'm like, I'm disappointed with that. Wasn't disappointed with the split to the Reds. Wasn't disappointed with the split to the Pirates back before you went on the sweeps of Colorado and the Chicago White Sox. This one, if you lose the series to the Angels, I'd be a little bit disappointed in that effort by the Philadelphia Phillies. And they've got a tough pitching matchup today with Tyler Anderson. We're going to talk about that coming up. But ultimately, I chalk this game up as a whole. Like, when you look at this overall, I chalk it up to you have those nights, right? You have those nights where you should win a game, you don't. Okay, that's why you play 162. Seranthony Dominguez doesn't throw a wild pitch that scores a run, and then Garrett Stubbs doesn't overthrow Seranthony Dominguez to allow Mike Trout to score. It's a whole different ballgame. And if you keep that final run out there, then it's 5-5 in the ninth when Bryce Harper hits or he didn't have the RBI, but when he has that ground rule double in the ninth inning, he had a ground rule double out to center, puts runners on second and third with 1 out. That's when you really have a chance to win that game. Instead, just made too many mistakes. But nothing's a trend yet. It's 1 game lost. Hopefully they bounce back. Coming up, we're going to talk about how they can bounce back, because, hey, they go at it again tonight, 9:38. p.m. out on the West Coast, another late night game after your Sixers get done, if you're a Sixers fan as well. We'll preview the Game 2 out there in Los Angeles against the Angels coming up as we continue Locked On Phillies. First, let's talk about FanDuel because, like I just brought up the Sixers, I'm wearing my Sixers shirt today. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing as well, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. You can do their same game parlay. You can do different game parlays. You can do all kinds of stuff on FanDuel. Futures bets, over-unders, money line. Go ahead and check it out. It's super safe, secure, and easy to use, like I told you. And I don't know what you're waiting for, but visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Let's talk about Game 2 of this series, shall we? Because I think you're going to get a really motivated Spencer Turnbull tonight. He knows what's at stake. He knows he could be making his last start for a while. Fair or not, Spencer Turnbull could be heading to the bullpen, and that's what I expect the Philadelphia Phillies to do. It's not what I would do, as I told you, but it's what I expect. So tonight, when he faces off against Tyler Anderson, I would expect more really good pitching from Spencer Turnbull, as he has a lot on the line. We'll go into the pitching matchup. We kind of talked about this in yesterday's preview of the whole series, but now that we're on to Game 2 specifically, Turnbull comes in 2-0 on the year with a 1.33 ERA. Anderson, 2-3, but a 1.78 ERA. He's more a product of the team he plays on than an issue with his pitching. A 105 whip for Anderson, a 0.85 whip for Spencer Turnbull. Can you believe we're talking about moving a guy that's allowing less than one runner an inning to the bullpen because you got Taijuan Walker back? Like, it almost sounds insane when you put it that way. It's a 30 and a third innings pitched for Tyler Anderson. That's his mark. 27 for Spencer Turnbull. The big discrepancy actually here, strikeouts, right? 21 strikeouts for Tyler Anderson, 30 for Spencer Turnbull. He's actually done pretty well strikeout-wise, getting more than a K per inning, and he's walked less than Tyler Anderson. He's allowed only 2 home runs. Like, Anderson's been good. Turnbull's been better. Now, the ESPN Analytics has this as a 53.8% chance to win for the Angels. They're favored in this one. Now, on the money line, the Phillies are minus 140 favorites. So you might say, why would the money line favor the Phillies and the ESPN Analytics favor the Angels? Here's what I'd assume, right? The Phillies are the better team. They've been winning consistently. I think the expectation is the Phillies win this series. And when you drop Game 1, Game 2 becomes even more important. So you expect the guys to zone in a little bit more. Not that they were zoned out last night, but you know what I mean. But Tyler Anderson is a tough left-handed pitcher. And we know the Phillies, they make their bones against righties. When you face a tough lefty, tough day for Bryce Harper, tough day for Kyle Schwarber, tough day for Bryce Stott, Brandon Marsh, Kyle Schwarber. All those left-handed hitters that make up the majority of this lineup end up having a tougher time. You do have some great righty hitters. Alec Bohm had a big 2 RBI hit early in yesterday's game, 2 RBI single in the first inning. He's still the hottest hitter on planet Earth. Like, he's a righty. He could be in for a big night tonight as he continues to do that. Nick Castellanos, I still believe in the ceiling. I know he's been struggling. I know people are like, send him down, cut him, trade him. Guys, it's April. Take a deep breath, all right? Team's 19-11. They've set a franchise record for wins in the month. They're doing that with Nick Castellanos playing basically every day. Like, calm down. It's okay. If he stinks in June, they're going to do something in the outfield. I promise. They're not just going to ride Nick Castellanos if he's terrible the whole year. But we're a month into the season, so it's okay, everybody. But my point is the lefties outweigh the righties in this Phillies lineup. So that's why I'd imagine they're looking at this situation and saying, yeah, Tyler Anderson could be in for a big night as far as that's concerned. I mean, Tyler Anderson is a guy that's leading the team with ERA, 1.78 ERA. The guy that's leading in wins is Reed Detmers, and he's also leading in strikeouts with 37. Now, just to give you an idea, right? Spencer Turnbull has 30 strikeouts. That's more than Tyler Anderson's 21. Then the top guy on the Angels, Reed Detmers, has, what does he have? Let me reload that, 37 strikeouts. And you're like, okay, so that's more than Spencer Turnbull, who's had a really good start to the year. Just for comparison, Zach Wheeler has 46 strikeouts already this year. So just a little shout out to Wheels being dominant as always. I don't really see an issue with the Philadelphia Phillies matchup tonight outside of Tyler Anderson. We know that the lineup is good, but if you work around Trout, you work around Adele, you try and be a little bit careful with Logan O'Hoppe, even though he's a young player who hasn't really shown too much pop yet. He's shown good ability to hit for average, but the power numbers aren't overly impressive yet, and that's not a knock on him. He's a catcher. Like anything he does is offensively is a plus. But my point is, you can work around the Angels lineup and not have too much trouble, or at least ideally you should be able to. We saw last night that was a struggle for Christopher Sanchez and Seranthony Dominguez. So maybe I'm undervaluing the Angels. I still think that the Philadelphia Phillies find a way to win tonight's game, and I think it's going to be on the right-handed hitters. The other thing you got to do, too, I battle back and forth on this, right? Johan Rojas got picked off in not like a huge spot. There was already one out, and next batter walked. So you would have had first and second with one out, but I don't know. It's hard to look at that as a major point in the game because it wasn't too late in it. But the base running decisions by the Phillies, I'm not freaking out about it, but it continues to pop up every once in a while. That's something to keep your eye on as well. If you're going to play against a pitcher like Tyler Anderson, and he's going to go strong, 6-7 innings against you, and you're going to have runs at a premium, and you know that you've got a guy out there that you only need to get 1 or 2 runs for to probably give him a chance to win in Spencer Turnbull, if you believe the sample size that you've seen so far this year, then you need to go station to station, smart base running. I understand the Phillies are an aggressive team on the base paths, and that's a very good thing at times. They like to steal. They like to take the extra bags. They like to put the pressure on you. I just think back to that play against the White Sox. I know it's the White Sox, but where Bryce Harper got intentionally caught in a rundown between first and second. Trey Turner slides in safe from third. You get a run early on that. Bryce Harper safe at second because the ball gets thrown away. Like, I'm cool with the aggressiveness in certain circumstances, but there also are games where you need to be more conservative based on the situation. I don't think the Phillies are bad at base running. I think they're situationally unaware sometimes. I think you get to a point where they run the bases the same in a 2-1 game in the 8th inning as they do in a 6-2 game in the 3rd inning. And you need to kind of tighten things up when you're getting a little tighter in score. And I don't think the Phillies did a great job of that yesterday, defensively or on the base pass. But I'm not going to harp too much on yesterday's loss. I think they find a way to win tonight. I think they're still the significantly better team. Like last night, you were the better team, even though you only had like a handful of hits. You're used to having closer to double digits over this, the 4-game winning streak they were on. You had 6 to be exact, so a little bit more than a handful. A handful if you're Antonio Bastardo. Go ahead and look up that one. But wait, is that the guy? No. Wait, do I have him wrong? Is it Antonio Alfonseca? Who had the extra fingers? Why am I not remembering this? I've got to look this up or it's going to bother me now. Phillies pitcher with the extra fingers. Someone is screaming it into their Antonio Alfonseca. My fault. I got him and Bastardo mixed up. Okay. 6 is a handful if you're Antonio Alfonseca. There we go. We got the joke out, finally. Anyway, you get a handful of hits. That's not what you expect. You expect more than that. I expect the Phillies to get more than that tonight, even though Tyler Anderson is a tough lefty. I just think they grind out at bats. And I think the amount of walks they had last night with 9 shows you that they still grinded out at bats, even if they didn't get the W. So feel fine about it. We'd love to see them win tonight. If they don't, we're going to be a little bit disappointed they didn't win the series. We'll cross that bridge if and when we come to it, and we hope we don't. But a bridge that we have to cross right now is what in the world is going on with Seranthony Dominguez. I kind of touched on this before, but this issue has become significantly more dire after this last outing. So we'll discuss it as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about DoorDash, though, because you got to check out DoorDash ahead of the next holiday. It's a big one if you love your mom. By the way, Shout out to my mom. I gave her a shout out on radio. It's my mom's birthday today, so everyone say happy birthday to my mom in the comments. So I told her not to read the comments because sometimes people are mean in there. But no, it's my mom's birthday. It's also Mother's Day coming up. And you can go ahead and check out DoorDash because they've got some great stuff that you need for Mother's Day. If you want to make your mom smile, you can start Mother's Day with flowers. You can surprise her with gifts from the brand she loves, delivered the very same day with DoorDash. Moms are a gift, so give her the best this Mother's Day. You got thoughtful gifts that you can get through DoorDash to get there easy in case you maybe forget and you got to get something last minute. It happens to the best of us. Even the best kids end up forgetting sometimes, lose track of the days, but you can select from hundreds of expertly crafted bouquets to the best of tech to self-care essentials and more delivered right to her door with DoorDash. Go ahead and get her something this Mother's Day, and they'll cut you a deal too, right? Do this, okay? You can get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15 plus on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now on DoorDash. All you got to do is you got to go and you got to download the DoorDash app and you got to go ahead and use, again, 50% off your next order when you spend $15 plus, okay? Use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB. And you can get that deal. You can help your mom enjoy Mother's Day. All of that, order using DoorDash today. Terms do apply. So Seranthony Dominguez gives up 2 more runs last night. He has a wild pitch go to the backstop that allows a run to come home. Garrett Stubbs goes and tries to make the play, throws it over Seranthony Dominguez. Another run scores. It's all just, it looks like the Bad News Bears. There's circus music playing. And before that, Seranthony Dominguez already looked like he just didn't have command. He didn't have faith in his stuff. He's in a crisis of confidence. And actually, Seranthony Dominguez, after the last time we talked about him, which was last week, when he struggled and just was miserable in a loss to the Reds, you put him back out there against the Padres in kind of a mop-up role, and he did fine. He had a strikeout, had an innings worth of work, didn't give up a run. I said for a while you should probably keep him in that mop-up role. Rob Thomson, what he must have heard when he listened to Locked On Phillies, big listener, thank you, Rob, for checking us out. When he listened to Locked On Phillies, what he must have heard was put him out there for one time in a mop-up role, and if he does great, put him in a major pressure situation against the Angels. No, dude. Stop throwing Seranthony Dominguez in big-time spots right now. He needs to be just solely mop-up roles. He does not have the confidence for it. Like, that's what you have to do. You can't send him down. He has no options. He's not going to clear waivers. His stuff's too good. He's too talented, right? There's no way if you tried to send him to AAA, he would get through waivers. It's not going to happen. So you're stuck with him unless you want to try and trade him, and you're not getting anything back if you try and trade him. He's only barely under contract for next year. He's got a club option. So the Phillies can cut ties with him at the end of the year, which is better than if he was just like under contract for the next 3 years and you had to deal with this. But still, it behooves both parties if you can figure out how to make him a good pitcher again. Part of that's on Caleb Cotham. Part of that's on Seranthony Dominguez himself. Caleb Cotham, by the way, the pitching coach for the Phillies. And part of that is on Rob Thomson for putting him in the right situations. Last night, Seranthony Dominguez was not put in the right situation. He did not deliver, but I got to blame Topper a little bit. I do. It was a bad decision to put him out there. You got bit in the rear end by it. You lose a game partially because of it. And now, like, I'm not asking anymore. If I see Seranthony Dominguez in another 1 or 2 run game late, like, I'm going to lose my mind. He's not ready for that. And I need to see multiple, like 2 weeks worth of mop-up role opportunities for Seranthony Dominguez before I feel comfortable seeing him in a close game. It's the only way to handle it. There is no other alternative. You can't let him pitch through it. Now, here's why I think Rob Thomson did it. It's because it's April. And these games ultimately matter very little compared to the grand scheme of the season, right? You'd much rather work through stuff now with Seranthony Dominguez than not have him for the postseason. But you also don't want to keep putting him out there and costing yourself games. And that's why now it's just like I'm no longer asking for no more Dominguez in big spots. I'm saying that if I see that, that's a major misstep by Rob Thomson. I think last night was already one, but I'm willing to cut slack on one. Next time, not going to be as forgiving, and I don't think Phillies fans are forgiving already. So that's how I would handle the Seranthony Dominguez thing. And it's unfortunate. Maybe he'll still find himself, but he doesn't have it right now. That's a shame. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.